Hey,
Hey man, how are you?
hey, very good. And how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you.
Okay, so everything's okay with the audio? We can begin.
Yes.
Okay, so you've just returned, recently you just returned from the tour with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and now your new album is being released. From the Fate is another album from your own band. So how did Joel Extra's 13 came to life?
Before things took off for me, I was making my own music and releasing it just independently under Joel Hoekstra. So I had done a couple instrumental albums that were kind of fusiony, undefined, and then The Moon is Falling was kind of progressive. And then I made a fingerstyle acoustic album after that, oddly enough. So I had three instrumental albums out that you'd sound like a guitar player's solo albums. You featured the guitar. And basically, what happened is I became more well known suddenly, joining Night Ranger and playing in the show Rock of Ages and joining Trans Siberian Orchestra and then Whitesnake, where a lot of the fans are going back and listening to my solo material and they're like, hey man, like you need to be releasing rock albums for your solo stuff. Like, what is this stuff? And so that's really where the idea came from to go like, hey, why don't I do that? It would be great fun. But I didn't have a desire to make it about like shredding the whole time. I really wanted to make it more of something that sounded like a band, but would be a more personalized experience for me. So something where I would write the guitar riffs, I would write the lyrics and the vocal melodies. And oversee the artwork, oversee the mix, have be very hands on with it, have it be a solo album, but sort of present the musically, have it sound like a band to people, where it's more about the songs. So that's where it began. I had been working with Tony Franklin on a different project, great bassist, of course, from Blue Murder in the Firm, and I asked him who he'd want to use as a drummer if we did this, and he recommended Vinny Appice. And right at that time, Russell Allen was joining Trans Siberian Orchestra, so I asked him to come on board as the singer for it, and that's kind of how the personnel fell into place. And then Jeff Scott Soto is a good friend of mine, and he said, "I'll sing backups on that for you if you want." And I was like, "That'd be amazing! Are you kidding me, man? Like that'd be make the album sound incredible." So Jeff has sung backing vocals on all of these records, and then Derek Sherinian plays the keyboards on them, which is great for me because he provides a little bit of a foil in terms of who can play the solos. It doesn't always have to be, oh, here comes the guitar solo. It might be a keyboard solo. We might split it. We might trade. Um, and Derek, on top of that, just has great sounds and great parts. So that's how the personnel came together, and that's remained consistent with the exception of Russell Allen being swapped out for Girish Pradhan on the third album. So we did, Russell did Dying Games, Dying Games, Dying to Live, and then the second album, Running Games. Now Girish Pradhan came on board for Crash of Life, and now we have From the Fade coming out February 27th.
And why the number 13 in the name? Does this number have a special meaning to you?
Just a lucky number. I was born on the 13th kind of thing. And I wanted to differentiate between just Joel Hoekstra because I think if you're buying a Joel Hoekstra album, you'd expect me to be putting myself more in the forefront on the guitar, or being like, check out the long solos or the technical aspect of things. But I didn't have a lot of desire to make records like that under the rock sound. At least if I ever go back to that, I would rather have more free reign and go back to the fusiony kind of thing where it's a little bit more adventurous and crazy music that maybe the general population wouldn't gravitate towards as much, but make it just about being really creative. So this, I wanted to do that as well, make it more about the big picture. Have it be something that standard rock fans can enjoy. That's what got me into this style of music. It wasn't guitar solos; it was the songs. Like listening early on to bands like Black Sabbath and AC/DC, Dio, Ozzy, Iron Maiden. That was all the stuff that I started out into as a kid when I started guitar, and then obviously branched into a million different things from there. But I wanted this to be a tip of the cap to a lot of my influences, and just have the opportunity to write everything for a change. Usually, when you work in projects or a band, You have a say so in a certain percentage of the writing. Like, might just be the guitar riffs. It might just be one of the riffs in a song. Maybe it'll be a hook idea here or there or something. But I wanted an opportunity for a minute just to be the boss. I mean, I love the collaborative thing because that's how you learn and you grow. But that being said, it's nice every once in a while to get to make these as well.
And like you said before, your band includes very experienced musicians, rock legends, we can say. And each of these musicians has their own projects with which they regularly perform. They play live. Did this pose any problems during the creation process of and recording the new material? How did it all work out?
No, I mean it worked out fairly smooth. I mean, in terms of the timeline of it, every album's been a little bit different in terms of how long it took to complete. But usually, after an album comes out, a little while in, I'll start maybe compiling ideas. The only time that there was a window was kind of between Dying to Live and Running Games. There was a longer window because I was like insane busy at that point in time with touring. I was not only touring with Whitesnake, but with Trans Siberian Orchestra and also Cher during that time. So I was really had my hands full in terms of juggling playing live. So it became a little more problematic to find time to get something like this done. You do have to have the time not only to write the guitar riffs, but then to write the sing with the melody for the singing, the lyrics. I usually have to sing the whole album myself, a guide vocal for whoever's going to sing it, and they just sing it a whole heck of a lot better than me, whether that's Russell or Girish. Um, so yeah, it's definitely more time consuming, and then I have to review people's performances when they send me the tracks. I mean, that being said, I hire. You mentioned the fact that these guys are all great players, and that is a big difference from the writing where I like to say I'm going to write it all, but when it comes to the production style, I let guys play whatever they want on it. So the song is there, but when it comes to their parts or what they play, they get to put their stamp on it in that sense. I basically never tell them what to play.
And you mentioned in one of the interviews that some of this new material was written during the tour with Accept. So, what did you learn from Wolf Hoffmann during this tour? Was Accept a band that influenced your musical development?
I mean, I was not really exposed to Accept much in my younger years. I mean, we basically here in the States, we knew Balls to the Wall. And that was kind of where that was about it, you know. And so me getting into sit in with those guys and fill in for the South American tour and the European festival run, uh, that really led to me learning an awful lot of Wolf's great riffs. Man, he's written some killer riffs. Great guy to work with. I mean, like as far as the friendships that I formed in that band, I love all those guys in that camp. They're great guys and probably the most straight ahead heavy metal thing I'd done. So when it came time to write the guitars, I think I'd just been playing an awful lot of that style. And so consequently, a lot of the riffs on this album veered more into the heavy metal domain. That being said, I think it's definitely still melodic hard rock. Melody exists throughout the entire record, just maybe a little bit heavier this time around.
Yeah, Balls to the Walls was very huge in United States, and I didn't realize it till the previous year because I saw Accept during the festival in Poland, and the guys from Crowbar, Kirk Weinstein on the front row, and he was like balls to the wall, like a
I
teenager.
Yeah, I mean, Wolf has written a lot of iconic songs, and like I said, you know, I love those guys. You get in the trenches, I call it, when you go to tour with somebody, where you go through all the life experiences, all the travel, and so you know, I like those guys a lot, and hope they have a lot of success. I know they have their 50th anniversary coming up, and some big plans for that. So I hope things go really really well for Accept. They're definitely friends for life.
And how would you compare this new album from The Fate to the previous one in terms of vocals? Because you mentioned that this time you tried to make better use of Girish vocal range and capabilities.
Yeah, Crash of Life was interesting, the previous record, because I wrote the vocal melodies not knowing if it was going to be Russell or Girish. Sometimes you just have to move forward and go, all right, I don't have that quite sorted yet, but I'm going to write this. And so it wasn't necessarily having Girish do a lot of his higher screaming. That's a lot of his signature style. And this time around, I decided let's go ahead and write some of that in. Like, why not take advantage of what his strengths are and let him be himself? So I'd say those two factors combined, having a little bit more of the screaming and heavy metal style vocal, along with maybe the riffs being a little bit heavier, do make it a little bit more of a metal record. That being said, there are some songs on the album that are like very almost AOR and not metal, like Lifeline and Will You Remember Me. Quite the Ride is another one I think about, or All I Do, where those are not necessarily heavy metal songs. They don't really have that metal sound, but there's more of the album has on this time around is metal, and those were kind of the ones I wrote first, to be honest. I was writing all these heavier songs, and then once I got about 6 or 7 songs in on that, I went, man, I better have some more melodic sounding, or I guess more AOR sounding stuff on this record. Otherwise, this is different than what I've been putting out under Joel Hoekstra's 13. So I like there to be some consistency stylistically.
And how did Girish Pradhan join the band? How did you meet?
That was really through Frontiers. Frontiers, I should give special shout out to. I mean, they've been amazing to me in making these Joel Hoekstra's 13 albums. They've always given me, full creative reign over this, and just let me do as I please. And they always release it. They've never said no to a song or no to an album or told me what to do. So I really appreciate that they let me just have my creative outlet and shine the light on it, if you will, by releasing it for me. And so big thanks to those guys for that and being so cool about it. In terms of just that really is the reason that I make these records, as a creative outlet. It's not really a money making endeavor. It's something that allows me to have an artistic outlet and I guess speak to my body of work for my career. It's been important to me not just to be successful as a sideman, have good gigs and whatnot. I've done great with that. Night Ranger and Rock of Ages on Broadway, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Whitesnake, Cher. More recently, you mentioned Accept. I even filled in with Foreigner for a bit. So I've had great gigs along the way, but I really wanted to make my own music along the course of my career too. That's important to me to I guess it'd be an artist along the way as well.
And you mentioned Jeff Scott Soto, who did backing vocals on the new album. Should we say like just backing vocals, or did they add this extra flavor to the whole album?
Oh no, they're huge in terms of the impact of all the records. All 4 records are hugely impacted by Jeff doing that. I think people don't they read that and then they just think, oh, blah blah blah. But he's a great backing vocalist, and he's a great lead singer too. But he happens to front an awful lot of projects already. So I had kind of enlisted Russell Allen at the time already, and Jeff said like he'd be into singing backing vocals on it. I thought I'd be an idiot not to have him do that. More or less as a favor to me because we're good friends, and so it really does up the quality of the album significantly that he plays that role. It's not to be underestimated in terms of his importance. He might be the backing vocalist, but he really, really improves the quality of the records.
And the first single from the new album was The Fall, like a classic hard rock song. Why did you choose that one to introduce the new album to the audience?
That was really Frontiers liked The Fall a lot. That was, I guess, maybe a nice combination of hooky and melodic, but also does reflect a little bit more of the heavy metal edge of the record. So that was really their choice, and we were on the same page, though, I think, in terms of what would be the best balance of songs to reflect what the album is going to be like for people. That's always the tricky thing. You have to find a way to give them a taste of it before it's out, because you don't want everybody always overreacts to a single. They think the whole album's going to sound like one single, and that's never the case, of course. I mean, this is one of the more focused sounding albums of them all, but in general, I like to write with a lot of diversity and style for these albums and have them sound different. So those are some of my favorite albums where that it's not song to song, everything sounds the same, but have it be completely different and venture all over the place. And you can find the connective tissue or the common thread through that by the musicians playing on it and the sounds that they're using and the mix engineer having it be sonically consistent and having bond an album together, even if stylistically it's a bit different.
Yeah, the second single was a bit different. You can give because it has like this powerful, almost metal riff. You wanted to show like your second, more aggressive side.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that like people understood some of the sound of the record's going to be kind of metalish like that. I think that's a good example though as well. I mean, it's a melodic song. There's definitely melody existing throughout. It's never just kind of shouting or screaming like nonstop. It's definitely a melodic tune. And then Lifeline being the third choice, kind of reflecting more of the almost AOR kind of style that creeps in on a few of the tracks.
And you often say that your music is very Dio-ish. So we have this song, "The End of Me," on this new album. Uh, is this one of these songs that could be featured in one of the this legendary singers' albums?
Uh, it's definitely one where I set out. I mean, I could tell you specifically the mindset on that. I have played Heaven and Hell quite a bit with Vinny Appice at Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. We'll jam that song together, and I thought, man, it'd be cool to have something like Heaven and Hell. And some of it was fashioned after that, but one of the riffs too, I've always really loved the riff from Electric Funeral. And I thought, let's write something along those lines, kind of like you threw it in a blender and came out with your own version of that riff. So the main riff of that song kind of has that, but it's got the chugging like Heaven and Hell. And then I think the quieter setup and the quieter closing is very like a Dio-ish, almost like last in line kind of move, where you have the delicate setup before bam, the heavy riff punches you in the face.
Also, vocally, Girish is very sounded very much like Dio.
Is that right? I mean, I didn't necessarily take that away from his performance on there, but that might be could revisit it and really like analyze that. I mean, I think he's got his own thing going on the record, but in general, I like people that can sing anywhere from that Dio-ish hard rock to but be able to get down with singing a ballad. But like a classy ballad, not like a cheesy poppy ballad, but more like a like the foreignerish ballads. So I've always kind of said, or early on, especially, I said Dio-ish at its heaviest, foreignerish at its lightest was kind of the model. That being said, there's been a lot of other little styles that have poked through along the way. You could look at Crash of Life and a song like Don't Have Words is definitely AC/DC influenced and with maybe a poppier chorus to it, but it's like the main riff to that. It's that's my AC/DC influence coming through right there. Or like you take You're Right for Me, and that's very Jimmy Page, open tuning Zeppelin. I wrote that on an acoustic and I think Open G or something at the time, or Dadgad or something. And so yeah, that's where you see a little bit more of that the Zeppelin thing come through at times. So it's funny how different influences will poke through at different times. I mean, The Fall, I tend to think of that main riff, the first riff of that song, as being very Queensryche influenced. That's a band that I've followed really the EP all the way through Mindcrime specifically. EP, Warning, Rage for Order, and Mindcrime were cassettes that I listened to a ton when I was younger. And then the second riff that, without a doubt, is a big Dokken influence, which is a band that I failed to mention as an influence a lot of times. But George Lynch is a big influence on me. My first band that I was ever in performing live when I was a kid, maybe 15 through 17 years old, that was the main band we would cover, was Dokken. And we of course wrote our own songs too, but George was a big influence on me in terms of his approach to guitar, mainly bending. I always liked his attitude with the bending and grabbing notes with a lot of feeling and soul. So George deserves a special shout out from me. I've just, not by design, but just sometimes you forget to name certain people. I have a lot of influences, man. I really do. It's tough to remember them all sometimes.
And how should we understand the title of this album from the Fate and the cover art that adorns it?
I mean, you could take it as you please, man. You know, I could leave that up to the listener, man. But the hand thing, that came from, we were going a different route. The graphic designer was going a different route and had kind of like the pyramid, like the first record, and it had like a figure in the distance, like a faded out with some design around it, etc. And I was like, it's not really grasping like, you know, the dark end of this and how like the struggle. So I remember taking my hand and putting it right down on this table right here. And I took my cell phone right here and I took a picture of my hand and I just basically filtered it, I made my hand look like it was gripping on for dear life. And then, so I sent her that, and that actually ended up on the inside of the album. We did actually end up using it on the jacket, but I said, "Is there anything like more like this, like just where it's really dark and like?" Uh, so she ended up coming with that as like a happy medium, I think. Probably smart because that probably would have been a little bit too dark and scared people, but the hand idea kind of came from there. And then everything you see lyrically in the background are little fragments of lyrics, not only from this record, but from the previous three Joel Hoekstra's 13 albums, if you read the script in the background. So I thought that was a great idea, too. A cool idea on her part. So, you know, the art thing comes together as you go. And the flame thing is just, it, you know, just looks cool, I guess, more or less. Nothing really deeper than that. Just like, yeah, that looks cool. All right, awesome, kind of thing. You know, not really descending into hell or anything like that, but just kind of a looks cool thing.
And your solo band is basically like a super group with all these experienced musicians. And you also have two second groups with Frontier Records with other musicians. We've got Revolution Saints and Iconic. What are the biggest musical differences between these groups, between Joel Hoekstra's 13, Iconic, and Revolution Saints?
I mean, they all sound quite a bit different, and my level of participation is always different in each of these. Revolution Saints is definitely more AOR, like Journey kind of sound. To feature Dean singing has always been, I think, the primary purpose of that project. He's an incredible singer. He belongs in the discussion constantly about who the best singers in rock are these days, but he's always ignored because he's primarily a drummer. But in terms of his vocal abilities, he can hang with anybody. So it's an honor to be part of that second lineup of Revolution Saints. 3 albums with Jack Blades and Doug Aldrich, and then Doug actually recommended me to come in for him. He was kind of done doing it, and Jack was done doing it. So they brought Jeff Pilson and myself in to continue the project. And so that's been great to be a part of. But that's something more or less where um, I sort of participate in the same role that the people on my records participate. Like I get to play whatever I want. I get to interpret parts and put my stamp on it with my playing, but that's pretty much where the creativity ends with Revolution Saints in that particular role. I'm not complaining. I'm like very glad to be doing them. Every level of participation is fun for me. And then Iconic is something that I think, obviously, them bringing Tommy Aldridge in on drums and Marco Mendoza in on bass, that after the fact, the initial people that were set to do it were Nathan James singing. Michael Sweet would maybe sing some vocals with him and play guitar, and I would play guitar. And that sounded like a really fun band. And it was kind of a combination of a couple ideas. I think they were talking about at that time a Nathan James solo album where I told Nathan and I are friends. I said I would play on it, and then Michael Sweet and I had been talking about doing something together. So I think Frontiers took those 2 ideas and went like this with it, and then said we'll find a drummer and bass player. And I didn't think they would bring in name players for that. I thought maybe it would just be a couple good players that they would find, but then they ended up getting Tommy and Marco. So I thought, okay, so we're going to go for a little bit more of a Whitesnake thing. So the first record that we put out, Second Skin, definitely was like driving right down what the avenue of Whitesnake influenced rock, man, for sure. Like blues, hard rock. And there's going to be new albums coming out from each of them, I believe, this year. I mean, I've done with my guitar tracks at this point in time, and they're each being mixed, and we're in that situation of scheduling the time to shoot the videos and Frontier setting up the release schedule. But people can definitely bank on hearing new music from each of those projects as well.
Yeah, what can you reveal about the follow-ups to the Second Skin and Against the Winds?
What, I'm sorry, what did you do? The
What can
follow-ups?
you reveal about the follow-ups to Second Skin and Against the Winds?
Not much. I mean, it would be speaking out of turn and out of time. I mean, I my guitar tracks are done for them, right? So that's as much as I can probably divulge at this point in time. But I think people like them. It's very talented people involved in each of those projects.
And during your career, you've played with some real icons, and one of them is definitely Cher. Which concert was more difficult, playing at Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in front of these musicians, legendary musicians, or at the 15th anniversary of Saturday Night Live in front of these actors and TV personalities?
There were a lot of musicians there too, man, because that backstage was crazy. There were a lot of really talented people that were a part of that show. So both of them, because man, it's not even just that, but you're scared for your life because there's millions of people watching. It's national TV. Anytime you play on national TV and there's millions of people watching, that's a lot of pressure. I don't care what you have to play. It can make like the simplest thing suddenly go like, oh my God, like don't screw up the. Some of the easy stuff is almost worse sometimes because you're like, if I screw up the easy stuff, how bad is that going to make me look? So that always adds pressure. Playing on TV is always a little bit more anxiety for sure.
And I had the opportunity to see you live with Whitesnake during what was probably the wettest concert in history because it was in Poland, in Dolina Charlotte. Do you
Ah,
remember
you
this
were at that
concert? Because
show. I remember, I know that show.
yeah,
Yeah,
because instead
yeah.
of hiding under the roof, David spent like an hour and a
David
half
went
in
out
the
on the
pouring
ramp and
rain.
he did the whole thing just getting been poured on. I remember that show really well. Wow, you're at that show. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was fun, man. I mean, I really love Poland. I think it's a beautiful country. It's really nice to visit there, and you guys are great fans. And I remember that concert. That's one I look back on very fondly. That was very David to defy the rain and go out there and just say, get out there right into it, man, right in the downpour and sing. Yeah, that was fun. Thank you for bringing that up. That was a fun show.
Very, very cold.
Yeah,
But when
I remember it,
but
dude. I remember it.
when I saw David like with his shirt on very wet, I told my brother, well, fuck that, like
Yeah,
under the umbrellas.
yeah. I mean that was a great bold move by David. I liked it a lot. I thought it was cool. Showed a lot of balls.
Yeah, and were you surprised by the announcement about the White Snake is ending its activities for good, or did you still like have some hope that you'll be able to finish this farewell tour?
I think we all kind of figured. I mean, there was a long enough period of time between his actual retirement announcement and when we had stopped playing on the farewell tour. So, I mean, I think most of us in the band figured that that was going to happen. So it wasn't a surprise. I mean, I'm just happy for David. I have nothing but uh, best wishes for him. I hope he lives a really happy life. And I know he definitely thought about it and made sure he thought it through. And I think he did it the right way. I think it was a very classy way to go out. And when David says it, and he means it. So I mean, it's like I think he genuinely was at the point where he was ready, and good for him, man. What a career, and he's a wonderful guy. Nothing but good things to say about my time in Whitesnake, my time working with him and working for him. Truly great guy, great human being.
And what was it all about the concert in Serbia? Was it like a celebration, a gathering of good friends, but ruined by, sensational headlines? Did the media attention like put you in an awkward situation?
I'm not sure of the exact reason why the gig itself was canceled. I'm not even in the know of that, but I do know that things kind of got like out of control in terms of like what that was. I mean, we talked to David about doing something like we had done before, just playing a one-off show. I think there was going to be more heat on it because Tommy was going to be there, Tommy Aldridge, and that brings a lot more attention to it. Um, But yeah, I mean, it got out ahead of itself and it got out of control online, and it's hard to say where some of that stuff stems from. You could get, as far as David had never given permission for a project, he had given permission for a one-off, and that's it. And so all of a sudden online, David had given his blessing to the project, was the language used. Who knows who came up with that line, but that never was true. It never was a project. It was a one-off, and we were just going to go do it. And we had done it before, and we're called All Star Band, featuring members of Whitesnake, or All Star Jam, featuring members of Whitesnake. And that basically was Dino Jalusic, Michele, Marco, Mendoza, and myself. And then the rest of it was Dino's band, basically. So this one would have been a little bit more having Tommy back there. Who knows, man? I mean, I see the clickbait that I explained why I was canceled, but I actually don't know why I was canceled. I just know that like a lot of what was being said about it wasn't true. That we were going on tour and all this stuff. None of that was ever true.
And what about Joe Hextra's 13 concert situation? How are you going to promote the songs from the Fade?
I mean, we did play one live show in support of Dying to Live on the Monsters of Rock cruise, and I would never say never with it. It's a really difficult situation for me to get out and try and take it on the road. I have a lot of things that do better for me in terms of the like business end of things, like being money making and paying my bills and raising my kids and whatnot. So there's things that make more sense. And I, quite frankly, if I took it out on tour, I think I would not only not do well, but probably lose money uh, if I were to go out and do something like that. So it becomes difficult to justify at the stage of my career. Um, Also, it's not necessarily my primary intent. I've never really looked at it as something that was going to be my money maker. I've never made those albums to make money. I've made them strictly for the artistic outlet, the creative outlet, and again, to reflect upon my body of work during my career. So um, it would be great. I mean, I would think I would have a really good time playing it live and getting out and touring it, assuming the logistics didn't become so nightmarish that I'd want to rip my hair out. I think it's one thing to be the person who shows up to play guitar on tour. It's another thing to be the leader and be in charge suddenly of all the travel and all the logistical end of things and paying everybody and figuring out where all that was going to come from and keeping everybody else happy. In addition to doing what I do, obviously just get out and play the songs to the best of my ability. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's tricky. It's tricky to try and get a tour organized for that.
And this is all that I have prepared. So thank you very, very much for your time. And I would ask you to say a few words to Polish fans of your work, Polish fans of
Yeah.
Whitesnake or your solo work, your work with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, because we have many fans of also this band.
Oh, well, hey, thank you so much for your support with whatever it may be. If you're listening to a song that I'm a part of, or buying an album that I was a part of, or coming to any shows, I absolutely love Poland. I would really like to get back there sooner than later. I think it's a beautiful country and enjoy the Polish people very much. So hopefully I can make it back to you guys sooner than later.
Okay, again, thank you for your time and have a good day.
Okay, you too. Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks.
it. Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.